Hello, and welcome back to Speak English Daily.
Hi everyone, we are very happy to see you here today.
Mike, have you ever had a small conflict with someone that started from a very simple misunderstanding?
Oh yes, many times. Sometimes the problem is very small, but it becomes bigger because people don't talk calmly.
That's true. I think conflicts often happen when people misunderstand each other.
Exactly. One person says something and the other person thinks it means something different.
For example, imagine your friend sends you a message and you reply very late.
Right, your friend might think you are ignoring them.
But maybe you were just busy.
Yes, maybe you were working, studying, or driving.
This is a very common situation. A small misunderstanding can easily become a conflict.
That's why it is important to know how to talk during a conflict.
Today, we will practice some simple English conversations that can help you handle conflicts like a professional.
And don't worry, the language will be simple and natural.
Let's imagine a situation. Mike, I sent you a message yesterday, but you didn't reply.
Oh, really? What did you write?
I asked if you wanted to meet for coffee.
I remember seeing your message, but I was in a meeting.
When you didn't reply, I thought maybe you didn't want to meet.
I understand. That can happen easily.
Many people feel upset in situations like this.
Yes, and sometimes people react quickly.
They might say something like, "Why didn't you reply to me?"
That question can sound a little angry.
A better way is to stay calm and ask politely.
For example, you can say, "Hey Mike, did you see my message yesterday?"
That sounds much friendlier.
Yes, and it gives the other person a chance to explain.
When you stay calm, the conversation becomes easier.
Let's try that conversation again in a calmer way.
"Hey Mike, did you see my message yesterday?"
Oh yes, I saw it, but I was in a long meeting. I forgot to reply.
"No problem. I just wanted to check."
Thanks for asking calmly.
"You're welcome. I know people can be busy."
That's a great example of handling a small conflict.
Sometimes the problem is not the situation. The problem is the tone of our voice.
Exactly. The way we say something can change the whole conversation.
Let's give learners a helpful phrase.
Good idea.
When you want to ask about a problem politely, you can say, "I just wanted to check."
That phrase sounds soft and friendly.
Another useful phrase is, "Maybe I misunderstood."
That sentence is very powerful.
Yes, because it shows that you are open to listening.
Let's practice that in a short conversation.
"Mike, maybe I misunderstood, but I thought we planned to meet today."
Oh, I'm sorry. I meant tomorrow, not today.
Ah, I see. Thanks for explaining.
No problem. I'm glad you asked.
You see, conflicts often disappear when people communicate clearly.
That's right. Calm questions are much better than angry reactions.
Another good habit is to assume the other person has a good reason.
Yes, instead of thinking the worst, think the best.
For example, instead of thinking, "Mike ignored me," you can think, "Maybe Mike is busy."
That small change can make a big difference.
Let's share one more helpful sentence for beginners.
Go ahead.
When you feel confused, you can say, "Can we talk about this?"
That sentence invites a calm discussion.
And discussions help solve problems.
Exactly. Talking calmly is the first step to handling conflicts like a professional.
Mike, let me ask you something. Why do you think conflicts happen so often between people?
That's a good question. I think many conflicts happen because people feel hurt or misunderstood.
Yes, feelings are a big part of it. Sometimes people react before they fully understand the situation.
Exactly. When someone feels upset, they may speak quickly without thinking carefully.
And that can make the conflict worse.
Right. For example, imagine two coworkers working on the same project.
One person finishes their part early, but the other person is still working.
The first person might say, "Why are you so slow?"
That sounds very direct and maybe a little rude.
Yes, even if the person did not mean to be rude.
Words are powerful. The same message can be said in a kinder way.
For example, instead of saying, "Why are you so slow?" you could say, "Do you need any help with the project?"
That sounds much more supportive.
And it creates teamwork instead of tension.
This is an important idea for learners. Sometimes the problem is not what we say, but how we say it.
Exactly. Tone and word choice matter a lot in conversations.
Let's look at another situation. Imagine your friend cancels a plan at the last minute.
That can be frustrating.
Yes, many people might react like this. You always cancel.
That sentence sounds like an accusation.
Right. The word always can make the other person feel attacked.
A calmer response might be, "I was really looking forward to meeting today."
That expresses your feeling without blaming the other person.
And it keeps the conversation respectful.
Let's practice a short conversation like that.
Sure.
Hey, Mike, I was really looking forward to meeting today.
I'm sorry, Anna. Something unexpected happened at work.
I understand. Maybe we can meet another day.
That would be great. Thanks for being understanding.
That conversation feels calm and friendly.
Yes, because both people stayed respectful.
Now let's talk about a helpful habit during conflicts: listening.
Listening is very important.
Many people think communication means talking.
But good communication also means listening carefully.
When someone is explaining their side, it is important to let them finish.
Interrupting can make the other person feel ignored.
Exactly. If someone feels ignored, the conflict can grow.
A good strategy is to listen first and respond later.
Let's give learners a useful phrase they can use while listening.
Good idea.
When someone is explaining something, you can say, "I understand what you mean."
That phrase shows respect.
Another helpful phrase is, "Thanks for explaining."
That makes the other person feel heard.
Let's try another example conversation.
All right?
Mike, I was upset yesterday because I thought you forgot our meeting.
I understand what you mean. I should have sent you a message earlier.
Thanks for explaining. I appreciate it.
Of course, I will try to communicate better next time.
That conversation solved the problem peacefully.
Yes, and both people showed respect.
Remember this simple idea. Conflicts are easier to solve when people stay calm, listen carefully, and speak politely.
Exactly. Those small habits can turn a difficult moment into a positive conversation.
Mike, have you noticed that many conflicts become bigger because people react too quickly?
Yes, that happens all the time. When people feel angry or frustrated, they often speak before they think.
And once the words are out, it can be difficult to take them back.
That's why one of the most important skills during a conflict is staying calm.
Staying calm sounds simple, but in real life, it can be hard.
True, when emotions are strong, people forget to slow down.
One helpful habit is to pause for a moment before responding.
Even a few seconds can help you think more clearly.
Instead of reacting immediately, you can take a breath and choose your words carefully.
That small pause can prevent many arguments.
Let's imagine a situation. Suppose you are working with a colleague on a task.
And your colleague suddenly says, "You didn't finish your part of the work."
Hearing that might make you feel defensive.
Some people might reply quickly with something like, "That's not true."
But reacting like that can create more tension.
A calmer response could sound like this: "Let's talk about it."
That phrase is simple but very powerful.
Yes, because it shows that you want to solve the problem together.
Another useful sentence is, "Can you explain what you mean?"
This helps you understand the situation better.
Let's practice a short conversation using calm language.
Good idea.
Mike, I think the report is still incomplete.
Thanks for telling me. Can you explain which part needs more work?
The last section still needs some information.
I see. I will finish that part today.
Great. Thanks for working on it.
No problem. I'm glad we talked about it.
Notice how calm the conversation feels.
Yes, because no one reacted with anger.
Another important skill during conflict is controlling your tone.
Tone means the way your voice sounds.
Even a simple sentence can sound different depending on your tone.
For example, if you say, "What happened?" in a calm voice, it sounds curious.
But if you say the same sentence in a sharp voice, it may sound like criticism.
That's why speaking gently can help keep conversations peaceful.
Let's share a helpful phrase learners can use when they feel upset.
Go ahead.
You can say, "I need a moment to think."
That sentence gives you time to calm down.
And it shows the other person that you still want to talk.
Let's practice that idea in a short example.
Mike, I feel a little frustrated right now.
I understand. What would you like to do?
I need a moment to think before we continue talking.
That's completely fine. Take your time.
After a short pause, people often speak more calmly.
And calm conversations lead to better solutions.
Now, I have a question for everyone listening. Have you ever solved a conflict by staying calm and talking politely? Tell us your experience in the comments section.
That's a great question. Hearing real experiences can help everyone learn.
Yes, because conflict is something every person faces at some point.
The good news is that with practice, anyone can learn to handle conflicts in a better way.
Simple habits like pausing, listening, and speaking calmly can make a big difference.
And those habits can turn difficult conversations into opportunities to understand each other better.
Mike, earlier we talked about staying calm during a conflict, but there is another important skill that many people forget.
Let me guess. Is it listening?
Yes, listening carefully is one of the best ways to solve a disagreement.
Many people think they are listening, but they are actually just waiting for their turn to speak.
That's very true. Real listening means trying to understand the other person's point of view.
When someone feels heard, they usually become calmer.
And when both people feel heard, the conversation becomes more productive.
Let's imagine a situation between two friends.
Good idea. Suppose I borrowed your book and returned it late.
I might feel a little annoyed.
And maybe you say, "Anna, you returned the book very late."
If you react quickly, you might say, "It's just a book."
That response could make the situation worse.
Instead, you could start by listening and acknowledging the concern.
For example, I could say, "I understand why you're upset."
That sentence shows respect.
After that, you can explain your side calmly.
Let's try that conversation together.
Mike, I understand why you're upset about the book.
Thanks for saying that.
I returned it late because I was traveling last week.
Oh, I see. I didn't know that.
I should have sent you a message to tell you.
That would have helped, but it's okay.
Thanks for understanding.
No problem. I'm glad we talked about it.
In that conversation, the problem became smaller because we listened to each other.
Listening also helps prevent misunderstandings.
Sometimes people hear something but interpret it the wrong way.
Yes, and that happens more often than we think.
A helpful habit is to repeat what you understood.
This shows the other person that you are paying attention.
For example, you could say, "So you mean the meeting is tomorrow, right?"
That gives the other person a chance to confirm or correct you.
Let's practice another short example.
All right.
Mike, I thought the meeting was today.
Actually, the meeting is tomorrow morning.
So you mean tomorrow at 10 o'clock?
Yes, that's correct.
Thanks for clarifying.
You're welcome.
That small check avoided confusion.
Another useful phrase during conflicts is, "Let me make sure I understand."
That phrase invites clarification.
And it slows the conversation down in a good way.
Slower conversations often lead to better understanding.
That's because people have time to think and explain.
Listening is not only about hearing words.
It is also about noticing feelings.
When someone sounds frustrated, it helps to acknowledge that feeling.
For example, you can say, "It sounds like this situation was stressful for you."
That sentence shows empathy.
Empathy means understanding another person's feelings.
When people feel understood, they are more willing to cooperate.
And cooperation makes it easier to find solutions.
So if you remember one thing from this conversation, remember this: listen first, respond second.
Good listeners often become good problem solvers.
Mike, we talked about staying calm and listening carefully. Another important part of handling conflicts is choosing polite words.
Yes, polite language can change the whole mood of a conversation.
Sometimes people don't mean to sound rude, but their words come out too strong.
That happens often when someone is stressed or tired.
Let's imagine a situation at work. Two coworkers are discussing a task.
One person might say, "You did this wrong,"
That sentence sounds very direct.
and it can make the other person feel embarrassed or defensive.
A more polite way to say it could be, "I think there might be a small mistake here."
That sounds softer and more cooperative.
Polite language helps people focus on the problem, not on blaming someone.
Exactly. The goal is to solve the issue together.
Let's practice a short conversation using polite language.
Sure.
Mike, I think there might be a small mistake in this report.
Oh, thanks for pointing that out.
The numbers in this section might need to be checked again.
I see what you mean. I will review them now.
Great. Let me know if you need help.
I appreciate that.
That conversation stayed positive because both people spoke politely.
Yes, and the problem was solved quickly.
Another useful habit is avoiding blame words.
Words like always and never can make people feel attacked.
Saying, "You never listen to me," sounds very harsh.
A better sentence might be, "I feel like my ideas are not being heard."
That sentence talks about your feeling instead of accusing someone.
And it opens the door for a better discussion.
Let's try another example.
All right?
Mike, I feel like my suggestions were not considered during the meeting.
I'm sorry about that. I didn't realize you felt that way.
I just wanted to share my perspective.
Thank you for telling me. I will pay more attention next time.
That kind of conversation helps people understand each other better.
Another helpful phrase during conflicts is, "I see your point."
That sentence shows respect for the other person's opinion.
Even if you disagree, you can still acknowledge their perspective.
Let's practice that idea.
Go ahead.
Mike, I think we should finish the project today.
I see your point, but I believe we need more time to check everything.
That's reasonable. Maybe we can finish most of it today and review it tomorrow.
That sounds like a good plan.
Notice how both sides shared their ideas calmly?
Yes, and the conversation stayed respectful.
Polite language helps people work together instead of arguing.
And when people feel respected, they are more open to compromise.
Learning these simple phrases can make difficult conversations much easier.
With practice, polite communication can become a natural habit.
Mike, let's imagine a situation at work where a conflict starts because of a misunderstanding.
That happens quite often in workplaces.
Yes, people are busy, deadlines are tight, and sometimes communication is not clear.
Suppose two coworkers are working on a presentation.
One person believes the presentation is ready, but the other person thinks it still needs changes.
That difference in expectations can easily create tension.
Let's act out that situation.
Sounds good.
Mike, I thought the presentation was finished yesterday.
I understand why you might think that, but I was still editing the last slides.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
I should have told you that I needed more time.
Thanks for explaining. I was worried we might miss the deadline.
That makes sense. Deadlines can make people feel stressed.
Yes, when people feel pressure, they sometimes react strongly.
That's why it helps to ask questions before making assumptions.
Instead of saying, "Why isn't this finished?" you can ask, "How is the presentation going?"
That question sounds supportive instead of critical.
Let's try another short example.
All right?
Mike, how is the presentation going?
It's almost done. I just need to adjust a few slides.
That's good to hear. Do you need help with anything?
Actually, yes. Could you review the last section?
Of course. I'll take a look now.
Thanks. That would be very helpful.
In that conversation, cooperation replaced conflict.
And the problem was solved through teamwork.
Another useful habit at work is clarifying expectations.
That means making sure everyone understands the plan.
For example, you can ask, "When would you like this to be finished?"
That question prevents confusion later.
Let's practice that phrase in a quick conversation.
Good idea.
Mike, when would you like the report to be finished?
It would be great if we could complete it by Friday.
All right, I will work on it today and tomorrow.
Perfect. Let me know if you run into any issues.
I will. Thanks for explaining the deadline clearly.
You're welcome.
Clear communication can prevent many workplace conflicts.
Yes, when people understand each other's expectations, they work better together.
Another helpful sentence during work disagreements is, "Let's find a solution."
That phrase focuses on solving the problem instead of blaming someone.
It also encourages teamwork.
Let's practice that idea in a short dialogue.
Mike, the meeting room is already booked for our presentation.
That's unfortunate.
Let's find a solution.
Maybe we can move the meeting to another room.
That could work. I'll check which rooms are available.
Great. Thanks for helping solve the problem.
You see, even in stressful situations, calm communication helps people move forward.
And when people focus on solutions, conflicts become easier to handle.
Mike, conflicts don't only happen at work, they also happen between friends.
That's true. Friends can misunderstand each other sometimes.
Even good friends can disagree about small things.
Yes, and when people care about each other, feelings can become strong.
Let's imagine a situation between two friends.
Okay?
Suppose we planned to meet at a restaurant.
But one friend arrives very late.
The other friend might feel disappointed.
And maybe a little frustrated too.
Let's act out that situation.
Sure.
Mike, I've been waiting here for 30 minutes.
I'm really sorry, Anna. The traffic was very heavy.
I was worried something happened.
I should have sent you a message earlier.
That would have helped.
I understand. I will try to communicate better next time.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Thanks for waiting for me.
In that conversation, the problem stayed small because both people spoke calmly.
Yes, the late friend apologized and the other friend explained their feelings.
Apologizing is an important part of resolving conflicts.
A sincere apology can quickly reduce tension.
Some people feel uncomfortable saying sorry.
But a simple apology can show respect and responsibility.
For example, you can say, "I'm sorry for the inconvenience."
Or you can say, "I didn't mean to cause a problem."
Let's practice another short conversation.
All right?
Mike, I'm sorry for canceling our plan yesterday.
Thanks for saying that.
Something unexpected came up at work.
I understand. These things happen.
Maybe we can meet this weekend instead.
That sounds great.
Apologies help people move forward.
Yes, they show that you value the relationship.
Another useful phrase between friends is, "I didn't mean it that way."
That sentence helps clear misunderstandings.
Sometimes a joke or comment is misunderstood.
And the other person might feel hurt.
In that case, it's helpful to explain your intention.
Let's practice that situation.
Mike, when you said my idea was strange, I felt a little hurt.
I'm sorry about that. I didn't mean it that way.
What did you mean?
I meant the idea was unusual but interesting.
Oh, I understand now.
I should have explained it better.
Thanks for clarifying.
No problem.
Conversations like this help people understand each other better.
And when friends talk openly, their relationship becomes stronger.
Conflicts are normal in friendships.
The important thing is how people handle those conflicts.
When friends stay honest, respectful, and calm, they can solve problems together.
And sometimes those conversations bring friends even closer.
Mike, we've talked about misunderstandings, apologies, and staying calm, but there is another important step in resolving conflicts.
You mean finding a solution together?
Yes, a good conversation should move towards a solution.
When people only talk about the problem, they can get stuck. But when they start looking for solutions, the conversation becomes more productive.
Let's imagine a situation between two roommates.
Good idea.
Suppose the kitchen is often messy.
One roommate feels frustrated because they clean more often.
The other roommate might not realize the problem.
Let's act out that conversation.
Mike, can we talk about the kitchen?
Sure. What's on your mind?
I've noticed the kitchen is often messy after cooking.
Oh, I didn't realize that bothered you.
It becomes difficult for me to cook when everything is not clean.
I understand. Thanks for telling me.
Maybe we can find a solution together.
Yes, that sounds fair.
What if we both clean the kitchen right after we cook?
That seems like a good plan.
That way, the kitchen stays clean for both of us.
I like that idea.
In that conversation, the problem was discussed calmly.
And both people helped create a solution.
Another useful phrase during conflicts is, "What do you think we should do?"
That question invites the other person to share ideas.
It also shows that you respect their opinion.
Let's practice that phrase in another example.
Mike, the music in the living room is sometimes very loud at night.
I see. I didn't know it was disturbing you.
What do you think we should do?
Maybe I can use headphones after 10 o'clock.
That would really help.
Thanks for bringing it up in a calm way.
You're welcome.
Finding solutions together builds trust.
Yes, it shows that both people care about solving the problem.
Sometimes the solution is a compromise.
A compromise means both people adjust a little.
For example, one person changes their habit and the other person becomes more flexible.
Let's try one more short example.
All right.
Mike, I prefer to work in a quiet space.
I understand, but I sometimes need to take calls.
Maybe we can find a compromise.
What if I take my calls in another room?
That would work well for me.
Great, then everyone feels comfortable.
You see, conflicts don't always end with one person winning.
The best outcome is when both people feel satisfied with the solution.
When people work together, even difficult situations can lead to better understanding.
And that is how everyday conflicts can become opportunities to improve communication.
Mike, we talked about many situations where conflicts can happen. Maybe this is a good time to review some helpful phrases people can use during difficult conversations.
That's a great idea. Simple phrases can make a big difference in the way a conversation develops.
Let's start with a phrase that helps begin a calm discussion. You can say, "Can we talk about this?"
That sentence shows that you want to solve the problem peacefully.
Another useful phrase is, "I think there might be a misunderstanding."
That helps people pause and look at the situation again.
When you want to show respect for the other person's opinion, you can say, "I see your point."
Even if you don't fully agree, that phrase keeps the conversation polite.
Sometimes people also need to ask for clarification.
In that case, a good sentence is, "Can you explain what you mean?"
Let's practice a short conversation using some of these phrases.
Sure.
Mike, can we talk about the meeting yesterday?
Of course. What would you like to discuss?
I think there might be a misunderstanding about the schedule.
I see your point. The plan was not very clear.
Can you explain what time the next meeting will be?
The next meeting will be tomorrow morning at 10.
Thanks for clarifying.
No problem. I'm glad we talked about it.
These kinds of phrases help people stay calm and respectful.
And when conversations stay respectful, conflicts become easier to solve.
Mike, after talking about so many situations today, I realize that conflicts are actually a normal part of everyday life.
I agree. No matter where we are, at work, with friends, or at home, disagreements can happen.
The important thing is not to avoid every conflict, but to handle it in a calm and respectful way.
Yes. When people communicate clearly and listen to each other, many problems become easier to solve.
Let's quickly remember some of the helpful habits we discussed.
First, stay calm before reacting.
Taking a moment to breathe can help you think more clearly.
Second, listen carefully to the other person.
Listening shows respect and helps you understand their perspective.
Third, choose polite and thoughtful words.
Polite language can change the tone of the entire conversation.
Another helpful habit is asking questions instead of making accusations.
For example, you can say, "Can you help me understand what happened?"
That question invites explanation instead of creating tension.
Apologizing is also important when we make a mistake.
A sincere apology can quickly reduce negative feelings.
And finally, try to find solutions together.
When both people work toward a solution, the conversation becomes more productive.
Let's imagine one last short conversation.
All right?
Mike, I think we had a misunderstanding earlier.
Yes, I think so too.
Can we talk about it and find a solution?
Of course, I'm glad you brought it up.
I appreciate you listening.
And I appreciate you explaining your thoughts calmly.
Conversations like that help people understand each other better.
And with practice, anyone can learn to handle conflicts like a professional.